Let me turn to Martin Brechbiel for MMR for his Scratch Builder's Corner.
We're going to go back to whatever I was doing last week and pick up wherever I left off. And that's where we were. We made strap hinges on the 4 large doors. Now we just have to hang them, and we'll hang them appropriately. Okay, so how do you hang lag door? Use a lag pintle with a strap hinge off a barn door. This is what they look like today if you went out and bought one. The ones I'm familiar with did not have the screw-in capacity. They were wedge-shaped with teeth on the sides that grabbed the wood, and you pounded them in with a mallet into a partially drilled hole. It was a good day's work, pounding those into oak beams. It's good for the constitution. But we have to make something similar to this in O scale, which in O scale, or even smaller, is just a piece of wire with a bent into an L. It's very simple, because you're not going to see it anyhow once the door's hung on it. And there you go. So what you have to do is make a little hook, a little L-shaped piece. I use 28 thousandths wire. And you got to remember where you got to put the door in the hole, hold it there, mark where this hole is going to go. And you got to remember, it's not going to go at the bottom of the hinge. It's got to go a little lower. You've got to give room for that. When you bend the 28 thousandths wire, that radius costs space. So it's actually a little bit low. And that's how you mark where your holes go. I drill them with a drill bit in a battery-powered Dremel. You could drill them by hand. I've gotten really lazy in the last 5 or 6 years, and I just grab the battery-powered Dremel and put the right collet in it and drill as many holes as fast as I can before I get tired of it and get bored with it. Okay, the holes in the brass here I use with a little drill press. So we mount the panels, drop the door on. That's where a little bit of the challenge is. Once you get these in place, they're glued in place. They look easy. Aligning the door and dropping it on there takes a little hand-to-eye coordination. Lining up 2 things at the same time at 2 different places is a little trickier than it looks sometimes. So there's 2 of them on, and now you have working hinges. These doors pivot right on those pintles very nicely. And so we can have hinge doors. It's not a terribly difficult thing to do. And unless you turn the building upside down, they don't come off. And there's a second set, magic. Almost too much magic. And we put some door handles on, some more wire, bend it and drill some holes, stick it through the wood, add some nut, bolt, and washer castings above them. It gives you the semblance of that there's actually a bolt system on here. You can barely see them. The new nut, bolt, and washers from Grantline are in a color of styrene, which is really not that visible until you put paint on top of them. It's unfortunate. I like the old ones that were black. Okay, so I'm going to pre-paint all the doors and windows. I used a particularly noxious color, Coach Green, mainly because I have too many bottles of it, and I happen to like green. It's not the green I particularly like to use, but as I said, too many bottles of Coach Green means it's time to use up some Coach Green. Add the glazing. It's just acetate. Add it to the back. Windows get 2 pieces, upper and lower, or left and right, depending on the type of window. 1 piece in the back of the door. It's something I really hate doing because it's tedious work, but now's the time to do it. You've got everything painted, put them on. Doing the glazing later, after the windows and doors are in place, is much harder and not recommended. Okay, so did the roof. This is paper. This is some paper roofing I had from Paper Creek. I still had a pack of it laying around. this rusted corrugated stuff. And it actually looks pretty nice, even in a photograph, I think. Work from the bottom up, cut it all out with I use a scalpel actually, to get that irregular edge that they printed it with, and you want to keep that. That makes it more interesting, of course. No real attempt to align anything here other than upwards from the base and wrap around the chimney. Chimney is a resin casting. I have forgotten who I got it from. It was in the box of miscellaneous chimneys. Just painted, I've forgotten what color, red, and 2 or 3 other colors touched up on a couple of individual bricks and some black at the top, which is probably not really black. It's probably Brunswick green, because I was trying to kill a bottle of Brunswick green. Let's see, I think we'll look on the other side. So you can see, let's see, there we go. Let's go ahead, move ahead forward. The resin chimney, and I added a little thing called a cricket. I don't know how many people are aware of what that is. It's a little wedge-shaped thing that you put up on the roof to divert rain and snow away from your chimney so it doesn't cause problems later. I remember when I got a roof put on my house, I told them to do this, and the roofers all looked at me like I was absolutely out of my mind. And they're like, "You want a what?" And I explained what it is, and they're like, "Oh, we can do that." They didn't know what it was called, but they didn't speak English either. So it was an interesting meeting of the minds that day. A little bit of tar added. I say tar, it's black paint, and we have a cricket. And the smokestack over the office. It's just, actually there's 3 different sizes of brass tubing here, stepped up, soldered together. A little piece of 10 thousandths brass soldered to the base. That was filed to a bevel so it would be straight on the roof. Some 10 thousandths brass folded over the top, snipped the corners, soldered all together. Some paint, some really dirtied up Penn Central green. I have a bottle of Flowquill Penn Central green. I find this to be the best use of it, to use it for copper, or it's been out in the weather too much. And we'll have final photos next week after I add the extra course of requested foundation stone all the way around the building. The end, until next time.
Anybody have any questions for Martin? That's going to be a gorgeous structure, Martin, when you're finished with it.
Well, hopefully. We'll see. Yeah, it's an interesting note there from Ed about Paper Creek. They did make some great stuff, and yeah, they went out of business because you could mass produce stuff. Just put it on a copying machine or put it in your scanner and print it.
Yeah.
Print as many copies on as heavy a gauge paper as you may or may not want. So that is unfortunate. And which is also, I freely confess, when I found out I was down to my last sheet, right onto the scanner before I cut it up and use it. I may need a piece later.
Martin, thanks so very much. Look forward to seeing you next week.